Welcome back, YouTubers, to my channel of an everyday encounter on a life of an Aspie. As you're fully aware, at this point in time, I'm just collaborating right now on sharing my thoughts and tips and advice for you all, for the autistic community and beyond, maybe for people that has kids or not. Pretty much that could be of help to you of this topic that I'm bringing out about the 10 tips on making friends. As part one went, basically, I was just briefly sharing my little bit encounters of how it is for me with AS, how it can be difficult for me sometimes to keep friends along the way, but what I've realised also along the way is that, you know, people come in and go in our life for a season and a reason and time, you know, and no matter what, they're likely to come back, you know, as a changed person and do what they will with us, be it if they want to continue the friendship into the next level, if it was a guy and girl, you know, friendship to a relationship, even though they say sometimes with friendships it can build up a better foundation for the next step further if it was involved with a guy or girl. Another also part of it also I covered was, in the first part, was like the definition of friendship or friends, how it is about it, you know, by this guy that I said about Elder Robert D, how it's defined as. As I said also, many people have been, you know, just continuing the use of the word friends and use it as contacts on social media as well, and some other terminology, even though it keeps interchanging like every other word that comes about in the dictionary that I share about. Also shared briefly too, quite quickly, that before those top 10 of those tips that I'm going to give as in the second part as advice, is that many Aspies, well not all of us, but many of us Aspies do tend to struggle making friends because we tend to misunderstand people, or we just misread the cues or body language, even though many people tend to give off bad vibes or just bad body language, you know, and some of us can be comfortable in our skin and just have the courage to actually introduce and meet other people. But, you know, it's all depending on the individual, of course, you know, every individual is different when it comes about interacting and socializing with others around them, you know. So no further ado now, I'm going to do those 10 tips, and with the 10 tips, the advice. So here goes. Number 1, teach yourself and your child about the theory of the mind. As I said before, the theory of the mind topic, I'm going to discuss what this is all about, hopefully in a 2-3 part series later on in the piece. So hang tight if you want to know more, you know what to do, just follow me on through this channel. Anyway, when others has issues that they can be in someone else's shoes, and to see how they will think and react differently around them and inside their world. Obviously, every child is different when it comes down to interacting, you know, when it comes down to it, that many children will try to mimic and imitate others, and sometimes they might think it's the right thing to do regardless, you know, of the consequences, even though sometimes some of the consequences are dire and that we tend to miss out and rule out. This will also give us to have the ability to think and act freely, even though sometimes we should be blessed here in New Zealand, we have the freedom to speak, freedom to act as our will, but we need to remember that despite our behaviours and attitudes towards others, how we show and reflect on others can, as I said, give off dire consequences, or even just give off vibes to people that, even if you're not meaning to give off those vibes, that you've got an attitude problem, or that you're just a sicko that, you know, needs some sort of help, or whatever the case may be, so to speak. Teaching your child, or even ourselves with AS, at a young age to think differently and act differently can prove to be a challenge for most of us. How do I do this when I was a little child? And it's true to this day, is basically I may be alone, sitting in a bedroom, or in a scenario, basically, if I was invited to a party with people wanting me to drink or whatever, I'll be sitting there minding my own business, and then watch how people react in different situations and how they talk, and watch their body language. As I said many times before, the shape-shifting comes into play with it, as the shape-shifting create film strips inside my mind, and scripts also, just in general, to know what to say and hopefully the right things to say at the same time. It comes into about. It's by understanding other people's behaviours, thinking, and attitude that can and will go a long way. For example, basically, sit down and explain the situation scenario to your child. Let them think and share why and how it happens, when it happens and stuff, and do they think it's appropriate or not. You know, take the time to get to know your child, obviously, you know, especially, you know, when they're growing up, no matter what age or stage, even if they don't have AS or autism or anything. Just be there for them, however, you know, it's good to do this. Number 2, encourage them to be open to their inside worlds. Okay, what I'm meaning here is escapism, defined as escaping from the reality. Sometimes for many of us autistics, we tend to want to find a place that we can escape from reality, be it if we want to go into a man's cave and do Minecraft or some form of gaming, be it whatever we need to do. Another one is basically for escaping from reality. Sometimes some of us, Aspies, not all, like we do tend to think and react like NTs and think that maybe cigarette smoking or drinking will get us away from the reality when it gets too overwhelming. Sometimes also another one is from escaping from reality for us. I don't know if it's for you guys, but for me, like before I have that meltdown stage or whatever stage I am at, when it gets so overwhelming, I tend to maybe either find something that's therapeutic, like, you know, baking, cooking, or even just put some music on loud and stuff and start dancing around, singing and screaming or whatever, just to drain out my screams when I really want to, and not throw things around as such, but just to do something in a real positive way that will just, you know, let go of all that pressure from me. You know, sometimes, however, that when that happens, of the escaping from reality stage, of that escapism that I've talked about, sometimes this is due to the our sensory inputs pretty much is being stimulated, overwhelmed, as well as basically to the point where we need to know where we're at besides our, you know, over sensory issues input. Many people think that, you know, for us Aspies or autistics alike, we are loony, crazy, whatever, but that's not the case. When you see us rocking, and they, as I said before, if you've been watching, it's a form of stim. Some of them find comfort through stimming, of rocking themselves back and forth, maybe humming, whistling, whatever the case may be, that will actually calm their nerves down to the point that they should be on a normal level at a given moment of time. This, as some people may say, this is an unhealthy way for a young child. Instead of thinking this, it could encourage them to open up their real world of what they're going through, of their thoughts and feelings, asking them, you know, what's going on in their world, you know, what are they seeing, how are they seeing it, are they alone, are they playing with someone, are they just basically freaking out to the point that they see in their world that there's that if you sit them down and maybe have that visualization, make them close their eyes and say it to you, basically, that seeing what they're seeing as dark imagery stuff, like someone beating them up or something, then that's something to question. Just, you know, let them talk to you, let them have a place in where they can escape from reality, and also if it gets too much for them, you know, when feeling safe, they do open up. They're showing openness and willingness to sharing their experiences, regardless what it is. Obviously, you know, sometimes it comes to the point now that when we get overwhelmed, we tend to try and quickly find someone who we can trust and lean on, sort of thing. And sometimes to the point that, you know, regardless of what it may be, even if it is not someone who we trust or tend to lean on, it's kind of difficult to try and explain to someone new or what have you, that what is going on if people don't understand us, even though some of the SBs or autistics do tend to feel that they're being judged and criticised for what they may be feeling in that given moment of time, no matter what it may be. Number 3, never force your child in a social situation where they need to interact with others. Many people think just because in any age or stage of a person that has autistic-like features or autism or whatever, it's okay just to force children out there. No, they need baby steps to socialise, obviously, because, you know, many people do tend to make that assumption or think wrong about us, that we should be socialising and interacting, and that we will learn real quick while we're socialising with others around us. However, no, this is not the case. Every child is different in their learning stage and development of whatever it may be, sort of thing, be it socialization, be it talk, communication, be it writing down their thoughts or just writing down things in general, you know, and the like. That's not always true, and it doesn't always work this way, however. No way, Jose. You got to take that thought out. Why I mentioned this before is because that many of us, me included, I usually tend to push myself to the point of no return to socialise, and it gets real exhausting to socialise with people for almost a whole day. Many people may think that that's an excuse, but no, as I said before, if you've been watching about that, socialisation energy tank need to be refilled, and I need to take a step back sometimes and maybe refuel myself and just be able to, you know, disengage from what's going on and just involve myself in a way just to refuel up. Many of us have limited energy, sort of thing, and may feel uncomfortable and become wary of our surroundings and wary of people's thinking patterns, or just wary of ourselves, you know, why we're in that situation in the first place, how we're going to get out, you know, and then we start to panic and anxiety levels going to increase and whatnot, you know, whatever it may be, and then whatever else we start to feel. What you can do though, however, is motivate and encourage your child and let them know their boundaries when they arise, you know. Number 4, useful sentences or icebreakers that are of help that are used in everyday conversations. As I said, sometimes for some autistics, when it comes down to it, socialization, small talk versus whatever else that some of us autistics in our community do to have our struggles, be it whatever it is. Small talk, however, for some Aspies can be good for us, you know. Sometimes some of us Aspies are now learning to try and engage and interact with other people around us, no matter what it may be. You know, many people tend to think, despite us being difficult, just because, you know, it's just a quick, yeah, you know, or whatever you guys want us to do, you know, I find it pretty much really sickening that, you know, as I said in one of my videos of one of my peeps, when I do socialise and I do interact and talk to you, never say something like you think that should be there in the first place. For example, what I'm trying to say is here, I do the best I can to my ability to actually express myself, even though sometimes I come out wrong or whatever, how I want it, but then, you know, that's me, okay? I may go on a tangent and stuff, but now I'm starting to try and learn to slow down, let others involved, sit down and take the time. I'm doing this now and it's proving to be more okay. But you got to be in mind though, with the short talks, there needs some more added detail. Instead of using those yes and no's that many of Aspies and autistics alike do tend to find that difficult to give out. Sometimes we're not interested in this, yet it's not our fault, and don't take it personally, just to try and understand that we're wired differently. Teaching a child how to react and respond, back up the sentence to what we say, using sentences in our library, making sure those sentences that you use in your library is understandable and clear cut so that the child will actually distinguish what you're actually saying, you know. Anyway, number 5, let your child make mistakes. Many parents, okay, I'm not trying to point the finger or anything, I've noticed that when I've been out and about, many parents make the mistake thinking that their children should be perfect without making mistakes and wrap them in cotton wool, regardless of what it may be, that they don't want them to basically fall down and break a bone, or basically want to do some really stunts that could create havoc and harm, you know. We got to remember that not everyone's perfect. Oh boy, Jose. Well, far from it. We all make mistakes. We should be able to accept the mistakes that we go through in our everyday life. Some parents are to learn from these, however. Some parents tend to wrap them in cotton wool in fear of their child for getting hurt, as I said before. All you can do is, for that, if they do make mistakes, you know, and you don't agree with their mistakes that they're making, of their choices and their everyday life, just be supportive and encouraging, and just impel them that they can go further, regardless if some of the mistakes that they feel it will lead them down and out in a stage of no return. Number 6, educate people that has AS and autism. To me, this one is a real important one because, you know, as I've said so many times before, to create an understanding and awareness about how we work, you know, why we act differently, when we act differently, why the heck is this an everyday situation do we have to actually, you know, explain ourselves or whatever. We need to explain how we work and what we do, you know. Sometimes we need to also be open-minded and flexible to some certain changes, or just open and flexible to a point where people may just want to engage with us no matter what it may be, you know, however it may be. Just got to remember sometimes though, with us autistics versus Aspies, that sometimes we are copycats, we mimic behaviours and thought patterns and the like, as I said before. We also need to know the common ground and boundaries, however, you know. Sometimes another example for how we work, we could, if we do run in a routine or schedule, we can also just show people our, you know, timetable structure. Even though now that I'm trying to become more flexible as much as I can, even though, as I said before, if I become too flexible without any planning or schedules or what have you in my everyday life, I feel like my world will just crumble. So therefore I do work better on a timetable structure routine, because obviously it makes life easier for me, and obviously it will probably make life easier for other Aspies like me, you know, having that routine and schedule in place, regardless what it may be. It can be as little as a timetable schedule for schooling, timetable schedule for like work, or, you know, if you've got some other outdoor activities that needs to be fit into those timetable slots, sort of things. So we need to be aware of what we can do, so to speak. Number 7, find a mutual ground. Okay. What I'm meaning is, if a child, Aspie child or autistic child, obviously they tend to do same thing over and again, or they have similar interests and they engage in, sort of thing, to a point. If a child is into, like, here's say Minecraft, Kinetics, Lego, My Little Pony, etc., some of these engaging activities that they're doing are educating them to a point, and they're enjoyable and fun. So you need to find a way that will be of help to them and beneficial for them, you know. Number 8, let your child know it's okay to be different, weird and wacky. In today's world, we find it really hard to fit in, blend in. You know, many autistics do. Even though it's not just the autistics, we are peer pressured to just be like everyone else. We're peer pressured by these hidden messages. Basically, we should be pretty, we should be sexy, we should be muscular, whatever the case may be. The social media and the bulletin boards and everything else is showing to us. You know, sometimes we are being pressured to the point that we are pushed into a cocoon or a mould of who and what we should be, sort of thing. And we force ourselves to be accepted and fitted in no matter what. Sometimes we'll just be the fake deal, some of us, and then, you know, many people will tend to question, why are they being fake in the real long term? Sometimes also when that happens, you know, some of us Aspies like to feel alone. We'll feel alone and isolated. Sometimes I'll just say this though, it's okay not to be in a so-called group, be it a clique that's labelled as the brainy, the geeky, the nerdy, the pretty, the popular. You know, in all this day and age, I feel that, you know, these titles and more do tend to disappear. You know, and without, like, I tend to think, without these personalities we have, be it quirky, funny, you know, and the like of these characteristic traits, and all these other materialistic things, be it pretty and all that, is that going to actually be in the right forefront of what it is in the long run? Anyway, number 9, focus on the talents and discipline them. Okay, what I'm saying here is, with a child, however, reward them. As we find it difficult, you know, sometimes to find the good in the child, sort of thing, and that no matter what, sort of thing, you know, they do have their hidden talent somewhere, regardless of what it may be. You know, we need to focus on the positive behaviour that they bring out, and not the negative. Some talents should be encouraged to show their talents can be used in the right way, and that no matter what, that, you know, with these talents, they can be used later on in life, be it helping other people in need, be it they want to be a movie star, be it they want to be a mechanic, whatever the case may be. So number 10, last but not least, focus on things you can do with your child. It's basically what I'm saying to round this up is achieving the goals and standards that they can do. Sometimes you have to set some goals, be it short term, long term, mid term, you know, so they can see where they're reaching to the point of how they're going to go about it. You know, grow up in the session with them and tell them, you know, how they are. Let yourself know what you can and can't do, sort of thing. Know your limits and boundaries on that, you know, of what you can and can't do. Also encourage yourself with your stuff. Show and lead by example with the kids involved, basically, and hopefully that with that leading by example, they'll do that as well, sort of thing. Anyway, this is the end of part 2, making friends and the advice around it. Even though I was hoping to do more research about this sort of thing, but I didn't want to drag on, sort of thing, so I thought 10 would be enough, hopefully, for you all. Even though, like I said, I'm no expert, just, you know, give me a thumbs up for support, as well as just liking the video, you know. My contact details is below. Like the video, comment if you do so, you know, just to give me a lowdown of how you feel I'm going, sort of thing. Subscribe to my channel, pretty much, if you haven't done so, if you want more updates what's going on in my world, of my Aspie world, you know, encounterships. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you all soon.